Hi, my name's Starsky and welcome to From the Studio on Clubbing TV. In this episode, I'm going to be taking a look at a really popular little synth that packs an awful lot into a small footprint. It's the Korg Minilogue XD. Well, this was released a couple of years ago now, and it's the successor to the original Minilogue. It's a 4-voice poly synth, which has got 2 VCOs and a digital oscillator per voice. The arpeggiator is also really useful for live performance, and you may have seen me using it in my Do It Like Kink episode. But what makes this really interesting is what Korg calls its customizable open environment, which allows you to upload additional oscillators and effects. And things like the Korg NTS1, which are built before Christmas, also use that technology. And this makes it a really interesting synth and goes way beyond what you might expect. It's a pretty chunky little thing and feels professionally put together. It doesn't feel like a cheap synth in any way. It's got a nice metal front plate and it's got this wooden rear panel as well. And it looks just like the others in the Log series. Here's the Korg Minilogue. This is the mono synth version. You can see it looks almost identical, just a little bit smaller. And I might take another look at this in another episode because this is a really nice little synth as well. And the largest in this range are the Prologues, which come in 8 or 16 voice versions with 4 or 5 octave keyboards with full-size keys. So this is very much the baby brother of the poly synth in Korg's Log range, but it's still got a lot to offer. So let's start then by taking a look at the oscillators. So this has got 2 VCOs, which are voltage controlled oscillators, and they're the sort of oscillators that were used in the original synths back in the 70s and the early 80s, and they give a rich, really nice, thick tone. Let's take a listen then. We've got VCO 1, let's just put it on an initial patch. Here we go, so we've got a sawtooth, and we've got different octaves we can play on there using this switch here. So that's pretty much what you'd expect from a VCO. You've also got independent tuning of the 2 oscillators, and you can change the shape of them. Let's try that. So with the sawtooth, get some nice interesting harmonics. With the triangle, again, it's a sort of wave shaping sort of sound. And with the square, we're going to get pulse width modulation. If we bring in the second one, and it's nice playing these sort of tones with just 2 slightly detuned oscillators as bass sounds really fat and full. So everything is sort of play with just the oscillators on their own, not playing with the filter or anything, just sounds really nice. And that's the VCO sort of sound where you can't really tell, but your brain hears it just being slightly out of tune and drifting in and out. And it gives it a really nice, rich sound. So we've got other things we can do with those here on this voice depth mode. We're on poly mode here, which means you can play it polyphonically, 4 notes at a time. But we've got a unison mode, so it plays them all on the same note. But then we've got the mode here, which as we change this, it detunes them. So there we've got the 4 voices playing 2 oscillators each. You've got 8 oscillators, all slightly detuned, and you get a massive sound out of that. Okay, so the next mode we've got on this is chord mode, and this works really interestingly as well. I'll take oscillator 2 off, so we'll just listen to 1 oscillator. So in chord mode, we've got a choice of various chords we can use. As we modulate the voice mode depth knob, go to a fifth, sustained second, whatever that is. And then we've got a minor seventh, and this is your classic Chicago house style chord. Literally anything you play just sounds like a classic old track. Anyway, we've got this ARP mode as well, so let's just have VCO 1 on. And the voice mod depth does different things here as well, different types of arpeggio. So if we put a bit of a classic on here. So you can get nice classic sounding tones out of this really simply, and that's because it's VCOs and they're the sort of classic oscillators that you used to get in the old synths, like the Stranger Things theme tune, which was on a Prophet 5, which was a VCO. So really nice thick sounds. You know, close your eyes, that can sound like a big wooden synth, and wooden synths are obviously better because they're older. So there's tons going on there with these VCOs, but we've also got this multi-engine oscillator as well. So let's take a look at that now. This has got three modes. The first mode is user mode, which we'll come to in a minute. Second mode is variable phase. Is that modulation? I'm not quite sure, but it's a bit like FM, like you used to get on the DX7, like digital FM. So you can change the shape of the wave using this knob. And then you can change various things using the shift knob as well. On this, it's the ratio. So you can change the shape, you can change the ratio. And if we go to the program edit, we've got another 6 things we can change on this as well. So feedback. We can hear it's doing something to the sound there. Noise depth. Adding noise. So you get the idea. And we're not just limited to this one waveform, we've got loads of them. And it's a really weird combination to have the digital oscillator on what's basically an analog synth with VCOs. That's what makes it so interesting. And the user waves are even more interesting. So let's take a look at those now. So they're all tones made using the same user wave, and it's called Physique from dirtbox.com, and it's a physical modeling wave which models how you pluck a string and where you pluck a string and the body of the instrument that the string's on, all sorts of things. So you've got loads and loads of flexibility there. Here's another one called Beats, and it's by soundmangling.com, and it basically turns it into a sort of drum machine. So that's not something I was expecting to be able to do when I first got the Minilogue. And here's another one by someone called Ham and Eggs. This one's called Super. The shape knob here turns it into a super saw, which is where you get all those big trance leads from. And then if we shift and shape, you can hear it's added a second oscillator. So it sounds like there's 2 voices playing already, and don't forget we've still got the other 2 voices spare because all we're listening to is the digital oscillator here. And when we go to the edit mode, we can change that second note. So let's bring in one of the VCOs. Let's bring in the other. So all that from just playing one finger. Let's add some effects. So there's so many different things that you could show on this. I've not really got time to go into it in massive depth, but hopefully I've given you a really good overview of the scope of this synth. So really nice, really good value, but is it for you? So this is a really interesting instrument, and it definitely has its pros and its cons. On the con side, the slim keys aren't to everybody's liking. Unlike the new offerings from Korg that have got 3 octaves, the full-size keys, we do have the mini keys on this, which we first saw on the Korg Odyssey, and feel a little bit out of date, to be honest. If the other Korg synths can do 3 octaves of full-size keys on the same footprint, well, why couldn't they on this? I don't hate them, but if you prefer larger keys, this maybe isn't the one for you. But of course, if you've got a MIDI controller keyboard lying around, you could just buy the module version. And then the fact that it's 4-note polyphonic is a bit limiting in some instances. It doesn't bother me too much, but then again, I've got other synths that I've got more polyphony, and then it's a bit limited on the sort of structure of the synth engine in that you only got a single LFO and the envelopes are a little bit limited as well. But on the plus side, these VCOs really do sound fat and fabulous, and with a little bit of distortion from the filter drive here, it sounds absolutely wonderful. And then if you add in the flexibility of the multi-engine and the effects and Korg's open environment, it is quite a stunning little thing. And it's not something to be overlooked, I don't think, now the new range of Korg stuff's come out, because you can get some of these used for around 400, just over £400. So obviously it's still a really good bargain and one that shouldn't be overlooked. So all in all, it's a great sounding and flexible little synth. And there's loads of competition now from the likes of Modal and their Cobalt and their Argon, as well as Korg's own new offerings. So lots to look at in this price range, and it really depends on what suits you best. Well, I hope that was interesting or of use to somebody somewhere, and if it was, don't forget you can catch it whenever you like on our Clubbing TV official YouTube channel on the From the Studio playlist. And if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll see what I can do to answer them. And if you are into your synths and your music tech, check out my Starsky Carr YouTube channel, where I've got a lot more in-depth and technical reviews, comparisons, demos and walkthroughs and that sort of thing. So I'll see you in the next episode of From the Studio.